You ever wonder what it would sound like if God apologized? Not in thunder, not in lightning, not in some holy drama, but quietly, like a whisper through cracked walls. Imagine that. The creator of everything looking down and saying, "I'm sorry. Sorry for what you went through. Sorry for what broke you. Sorry for what didn't make sense. Sorry for the nights you begged for answers and only heard silence." Not because he made a mistake, no, but because maybe, just maybe, you were part of something he couldn't explain to you. Yet pain was never punishment, it was preparation. People hear the word pain, and they flinch like it's a curse, a sentence, something to be avoided at all costs. But pain is personal tutoring from the universe itself. It doesn't come to destroy you, it comes to design you. It's the sound of the old version of you being ripped away so the real one can breathe. The problem is no one tells you that. They just say, stay strong, have faith, it'll get better. Empty words from people who've never sat in the dark long enough to hear their own soul scream. You think pain is punishment because it feels cruel. It doesn't tell you why it's there. It doesn't explain itself. It just breaks, burns, takes, and waits for you to understand you. Look around when everything falls apart and think, what did I do wrong? Funny how we're wired like that. To assume every storm means we've sinned, every silence means we've been abandoned. But what if pain wasn't punishment at all? What if it was a divine classroom? A brutal one, yes, but the only one that works. Because nothing teaches like suffering does. Nothing humbles like loss. Nothing awakens like heartbreak. When you're comfortable, you don't change. When everything's smooth, you stop listening. It's only when life cracks your bones a little that you start asking the right questions. It's only when everything hurts that you start paying attention. Pain strips away the unnecessary, the fake smiles, the false identities, the crowd you called friends. It all melts. Pain doesn't negotiate. It doesn't care about your titles or your trophies. It just wants to know one thing. Who are you when everything's gone? It rips the masks off because destiny doesn't deal with actors. You can't fake strength in a storm. The wind exposes what's real, and once pain is done tearing through your illusions, you're left raw, unguarded, trembling, but true. That's where preparation begins. That's where the real building starts. You don't learn resilience from comfort. You learn it from falling apart and realizing you're still breathing. Everyone wants purpose, but no one wants the process that births it. You can't carry greatness with soft hands. The weight of destiny demands calluses, scars, sleepless nights, and tears that taste like iron. Pain forges what peace cannot. When the fire comes, it doesn't ask permission. It burns what's weak, tests what's strong, and reveals what's eternal. People call it unfair, cruel, unnecessary. But pain is simply proof that something inside you is still growing. Growth doesn't happen in safety. Growth happens in pressure, in confusion, in betrayal, in the moments where you think it's over, but something inside whispers, not yet. Think about it. Every powerful person you admire has one thing in common. They've suffered deeply, publicly or privately. They've all been through something that tried to break them, and maybe it did for a while. But pain never leaves you the same. It either poisons you or purifies you. And the chosen, they let it purify. They take the fire and let it mold them into something unrecognizable. Pain doesn't kill them. It forges armor around their soul, the kind that doesn't rust, doesn't crack, doesn't flinch when life throws another blow. They stop fearing pain because they realize pain is the only thing that ever told them the truth. You see, punishment ends things. Preparation begins them. Punishment closes doors. Preparation builds them. You thought God was angry, but he was training you. You thought life hated you, but it was hardening you. You thought pain meant failure, but it was actually prophecy, whispering, you're not ready yet, but you will be. Every heartbreak taught you discernment. Every betrayal taught you boundaries. Every delay taught you patience. Pain was never trying to destroy you. It was trying to remove the version of you that couldn't survive where you're going. It's strange, isn't it? The very moments that made you question your worth were actually shaping your worth. The nights that made you doubt your strength were the ones building it. Pain isn't there to punish you for your past. It's there to prepare you for your purpose. It teaches you how to endure what others would escape, how to walk through fire and smile while your shoes melt. It rewires your nerves to handle the heat of your own destiny. Because when you finally arrive where you're meant to be, it won't be peaceful. It'll be pressure, responsibility, attention, temptation, and pain is the only thing that can make sure you're ready for all of that. Without breaking again, pain was never punishment. It was rehearsal. Every tear was a script. Every scar a line you'll someday deliver to someone else who's bleeding and doesn't believe they can survive it. You weren't being punished. You were being prepared, carved, refined, trained by the very fire you begged to escape. They don't hate you because you failed. They hate you because you survived what was supposed to break you. You were supposed to stay down. That was the plan, remember? The whispers, the laughter behind your back, the way they watched when you stumbled. They wanted the ending. They wanted the story of your downfall to close nice and neat, wrapped in pity. But you didn't stay there, did you? You stood back up, bleeding, limping, but alive. And nothing burns a person more than seeing someone rise from the wreckage they designed. They didn't expect your breath to come back, your eyes to open, your steps to return. Survival. That was never part of their script. People can tolerate your pain, but they can't handle your healing. As long as you're broken, they feel safe. As long as you're crawling, they can look down on you, call themselves kind for offering sympathy. But the second you start walking again, the second you start smiling for real, the second the light comes back into your eyes, that's when the applause stops. That's when support turns to silence. Because now you remind them of everything they gave up on. Your comeback exposes their comfort. Your resilience embarrasses their excuses. You become a mirror they can't stand to look at because it shows them what they could have been if they hadn't quit. See, people love tragedy as long as it's not their own. They love watching someone fall. It makes them feel safe in their mediocrity. It makes their small world feel justified. But when that same person they counted out starts standing taller, speaking louder, shining brighter, it flips something inside them. Envy wears the mask of advice. Jealousy sounds like concern. Don't get too confident, they say. Stay humble, they say. What they really mean is shrink again. Make me comfortable again. Because your survival rewrites the story they were telling about you. You weren't supposed to make it this far. You weren't supposed to heal this fast. You weren't supposed to be stronger than before. That's the thing about survival. It's not quiet. You think you came back the same, but you didn't. There's a new tone in your voice, a new rhythm in your walk, a new kind of danger in your silence. You carry scars, yes, but you also carry proof. That pain bows to persistence. And when people see that, they panic. Because if you can survive what you did, then they can't use their own pain as an excuse anymore. You've become living evidence that strength isn't born from luck. It's carved out of chaos. You're the reminder they didn't ask for. You're proof that they could have made it too, but they chose to stay down. They'll start calling you names. Arrogant, distant, cold. But those words don't come from observation. They come from insecurity. They don't know the nights you spent questioning your own worth. They don't know the battles you fought in silence. The prayers that went unanswered. The mornings you woke up with your chest on fire and still moved anyway. They only see after. They see the strength, not the sacrifice. They see the glow, not the ashes. They see the crown, not the cuts it took to wear it. You survived what they couldn't imagine, and that's why they resent it. Because deep down, they know they would have folded where you fought. They don't hate the light, they hate the reminder that it came from darkness. You didn't just rise, you exposed everything fake around you. Every friend who clapped for your weakness but not your win. Every voice that prayed for your peace but couldn't stand your power. Survival has a strange way of cleaning the room. The crowd thins, the noise dies, only real energy remains. You'll look around and realize how many people were only loyal to your wounds. They liked the version of you that needed saving, not the one that learned to save itself. But that's the beauty of surviving. It burns off everything that was never real. You're a threat now, not because you're dangerous, but because you're free. Free from validation, free from permission, free from the need to be understood. You've already seen the worst, you've already felt the fall, and still, you're here. That's what terrifies them. You've become unpredictable. You don't respond the same, you don't beg the same, you don't break the same. You move like someone who's already faced death in 1,000 small ways and decided to keep living anyway. They don't know what to do with someone like that. They can't control someone who's no longer afraid of losing. That's why they talk, that's why they twist your story, try to paint your peace as pride, your confidence as cruelty, because if they can't destroy your strength, they'll try to destroy the way others see it. But they can't touch what's real. They can't touch what's earned. You survived, and that means you've already won a war they never even entered. You didn't just come back. You came back different, and that difference, that's what scares them most. People attack what they secretly envy. It's almost poetic, isn't it? The same mouths that once smiled in your face are now the ones spitting venom behind your back. But envy doesn't wear green, no. It wears familiarity. It hides behind laughter, compliments, just being honest moments. It's that uncomfortable glance when you walk in the room, the sudden silence that feels heavier than words. You think they dislike you, but no, that's too simple. They want to be you. Or more precisely, they want the peace that lives inside you despite the hell you've walked through. You've got something they can't fake, something they can't buy, something they can't steal, and that's what drives them mad. See, envy isn't about possessions, it's about presence. It's not the car, the money, or the followers that bother them. It's the fact that you can smile without pretending. It's the way you move without begging for permission. It's how you walk through storms like you've danced in worse ones before. People can handle success. If it looks painful, if it looks like it came with suffering, they can pity. But when you make strength look effortless, when you make calm look cool, when you wear resilience like a second skin, they can't stomach it, because now your existence challenges their excuses. You're the proof that pain can be power. And power without apology threatens the fragile world they live in. They'll never say they envy you. No, that would make them look small. Instead, they'll disguise it. They'll call you lucky. They'll say you've changed. They'll whisper that you've forgotten where you came from. They'll pick apart your smallest flaws, your tone, your silence, your joy, anything that reminds them you've evolved beyond the box they built for you. It's not about who you are now. It's about who they thought you'd stay. People get comfortable watching you struggle because it makes them feel superior. The second you rise, it exposes the fact that they chose to stay crawling. That's what envy is. It's not hate for what you have. It's grief for what they lost when they stopped growing. Envy makes people unpredictable. It turns admirers into critics, friends into competitors, and supporters into saboteurs. One day they're cheering you on, the next they're dissecting your every move. They don't want your life. They want your light. They want that invisible strength, that quiet knowing, that unshakable thing inside you that says, no matter what, I'll make it. They try to dim it with rumors, mockery, fake advice. But the more they talk, the more you shine. Because your energy doesn't feed off approval. It feeds off authenticity. And nothing enrages an envious soul more than watching you stay kind in a room full of people who want to see you break. You ever notice how envy sounds? It's disguised as sarcasm. It's the must be nice comment. It's the you think you're better than everyone now line. It's that nervous laughter after your success story, the forced congratulations, the tight smile that doesn't reach their eyes. They want to celebrate you, but their ego won't let them. Because to them, your success isn't inspiring, it's insulting. It reminds them that while they were busy doubting, you were busy doing. It reminds them that while they were mocking, you were manifesting. It's a mirror, and mirrors make cowards uncomfortable. You'll feel their energy before they ever say a word. That shift in tone, that sudden coldness, that's envy trying to find an exit. They'll keep testing you, trying to see if you'll shrink. That's what they really want. Not your failure, your silence. They want you to second guess yourself, to tone down your glow so they can breathe again. Don't. The moment you dim your light to make someone else feel comfortable, you validate their insecurity. They'll only respect you when you stop caring if they do. Envy can't survive in the presence of someone who knows their worth and refuses to apologize for it. It's not your job to convince them. You deserve your blessings. You paid for those moments in blood, in tears, in lonely nights where no one clapped. You earned the smile, the peace, the glow. You didn't steal it, you built it, and deep down they know it. That's what hurts. They can't stand the fact that you didn't need permission to evolve, that you walked out of the cage. They're still sitting in, pretending it's comfort. They'll twist your story, call your growth ego, your healing pride. Because when you heal faster than they expected, you destroy the narrative they built about you. They won't admit they envy you, but you'll see it in their reactions. The ones who used to check on you suddenly go quiet when you win. The ones who said they'd always support you stop clapping when your light shines a little too bright. Don't take it personally. Envy is silent confession. It's a compliment wrapped in poison. They wish they could do what you did, endure what you did, rise how you did. But instead of learning from you, they'd rather resent you. It's easier to hate than to heal, easier to point fingers than to face the truths. So when people attack you, smile. When they whisper, let them, they're revealing something sacred. Your existence disturbs their comfort. That's how you know you've evolved. You become the walking reminder of what's possible. You've turned their disbelief into discomfort. And in this world, that's the loudest kind of victory. There's forced exits are divine redirections. You don't see it while it's happening, though. At first, it just feels like loss. The job that suddenly disappears. The friend who ghosts you without warning, the door that shuts so hard you swear you can still hear it echo at night. You think it's rejection, failure, punishment, but it's not. It's movement, the kind that doesn't ask for your permission. Because if life waited for you to feel ready, you'd never leave the places you've outgrown. You'd cling to comfort until it rotted in your hands. So instead, the universe grabs you by the collar and drags you where you were meant to be. All along, you think you're being pushed out, but you're actually being pulled forward. Every forced exit feels like betrayal until time reveals the reason. You were asking for growth, weren't you? For peace, for freedom, for clarity. And then when it showed up, not as light but as chaos, you panicked. That's the cruel joke of transformation. It doesn't knock politely. It breaks in, it flips tables, exposes lies, burns bridges, removes people. It feels violent because it has to be. You don't change gently. You change when you're cornered, when comfort turns into poison, when staying becomes suffocating. And that's when life says, enough, you're leaving now. People love to talk about blessings, but they never mention how messy they look in the beginning. How a blessing can look like a breakdown, how a miracle can feel like being fired, dumped, or abandoned. Forced exits are God's way of closing doors. You're too loyal to shut yourself because you won't leave what's familiar, even when it's killing you slowly. You won't end the friendship, quit the job, walk away from the person who stopped seeing your worth. So the divine does it for you. It's not cruelty, it's correction. You think you've been kicked out, but really, you've been rescued. You were trying to build a future on borrowed time, and life said no more. Like, you look at every moment that broke you, and you'll see a pattern. Every loss led to a lesson. Every ending opened something new. The job that ended forced you to create your own lane. The breakup that shattered you taught you self-respect. The betrayal that humiliated you showed you the difference between real and fake. You were never being punished. You were being redirected toward the version of you that wouldn't settle anymore. Forced exits strip away the illusion of control. They make you see who was never really for you, what was never really yours, and where you were never meant to stay. They take the mask off your comfort zone and show you the truth hiding underneath. It's funny, isn't it? How we beg for signs, and then when they come, we call them disasters. You say, I want peace. And then suddenly every toxic person disappears. You say, I want purpose. And then your old path collapses. You say, I want freedom. And then you lose everything that kept you chained. You think the world is against you, but maybe it's actually working for you, just in a way your heart doesn't understand yet. Forced exits are loud mercy. They're grace disguised as grief. They hurt because they're honest, because truth never leaves quietly. Most people stay too long in the wrong rooms. They wait for permission to leave, hoping something will magically change. But the thing about wrong rooms is, they never change. They drain your spark, your confidence, your creativity. And when you're too afraid to walk out, life throws you out. Suddenly the door slams and you're standing there, angry, confused, alone. But slowly, painfully, you start to breathe again. You start to see color again. And it hits you. You weren't losing anything real. You were losing illusions. You were losing comfort that had turned into a cage. You were losing what was blocking the next chapter. There's always resistance before redirection. You'll fight it, deny it, curse it. You'll try to crawl back through the closed door, thinking maybe if you knock hard enough, it'll open again. But it won't, because that version of you, the one who fit in that space, doesn't exist anymore. The exit wasn't punishment. It was evidence of evolution. You grew too big for where you were planted. The walls that once felt safe started closing in because they couldn't contain you anymore. You were never meant to shrink yourself to fit. The push wasn't rejection, it was release. People will misunderstand your exits. They'll say you're ungrateful, unstable, impulsive, but they don't see what you felt inside. That quiet, knowing that something was off, that you were out of alignment. They don't understand the whisper that kept saying, when it's time. That whisper doesn't go away until you listen, and if you don't, life will make sure you have no choice. It's ruthless that way. It doesn't care about your comfort, only your calling. It won't let you rot in rooms meant to be temporary. It will set fire to your comfort until you run, not because you want to, but because you have to. So when you find yourself pushed out, betrayed, replaced, abandoned, stop asking, why me? Start asking, what's next? The pain that follows exit isn't emptiness, it's clearing. It's space being made for something new to grow. You think you've been exiled, but really you've been escorted into alignment. Forced exits are never endings. They're divine reintroductions. You outgrow rooms before you're pushed from them. That's the thing no one tells you about growth. It's quiet at first. It starts as discomfort. Little things that used to thrill, you start feeling dull. The jokes don't land the same. The conversations start to sound recycled. You catch yourself zoning out, not because you're bored, but because your spirit is already somewhere else. You don't fit like you used to. The laughter feels forced, the energy feels stale, and the air feels too heavy to breathe. That's not arrogance, that's evolution. It's the sound of your soul stretching against walls that have gotten too small for what you've become. You stay anyway. You try to make it work. You tell yourself you're just tired, that you're being dramatic. You force smiles, play along, dim your thoughts so you don't seem different. But no matter how hard you try to shrink, the cracks start showing. You can't hide hunger forever. You can't pretend you're comfortable in a space built for an older version of you. That's the funny part about outgrowing people and places. It's not that you stop loving them. It's that you stop belonging there. You don't resonate with the same chaos anymore. You stop feeding on gossip, stop seeking validation, stop performing for approval. And when that happens, the room notices before you do. People can sense when you've changed, even when you say nothing. The same people who used to love your company start getting uneasy around you. You haven't said a word, but your silence makes them fidget. Your peace bothers their noise. Your growth exposes their stagnation. You didn't do anything wrong. You just evolved, and evolution has a scent. It smells like confidence, self-respect, discipline. The ones still chasing comfort can't stand that smell. They start pulling away, making excuses, calling you distant. That's how life signals you're ready to move. When your energy no longer fits the environment rejects it, not out of malice, but out of balance. You'll start to notice how small the room really is. Once your mind expands, you'll look around and realize you've been sitting in a circle of repetition. Same stories, same complaints, same cycles dressed in new excuses. It's not judgment, it's clarity. You see now that growth and comfort can't coexist. The same environment that once nurtured you now numbs you. And if you don't listen to that discomfort, it becomes louder. Restlessness turns into resentment. Your light starts flickering because you're suffocating it. That's when the universe starts shaking things loose. People leave. Opportunities vanish. Plans collapse. It feels cruel, but it's not. It's correction again. A divine eviction notice from spaces you've outgrown. Sometimes you'll outgrow people you thought would be permanent. You'll love them, but you'll know you can't stay. Their conversations drain you. Their ambitions don't match yours. They keep revisiting pain you're trying to heal from. You can't hate them for it. They're just not moving at your pace anymore. You tried to bring them with you, but growth isn't contagious. Everyone has to decide when to evolve, and some people never will. They'll stay in the room you left, wondering why you changed, not realizing you didn't. You just became who you were supposed to be all along. The hardest part is that outgrowing something doesn't always feel empowering. Sometimes it feels like guilt. You'll question yourself. Am I being selfish? Am I abandoning them? No. You're honoring what's real. Staying small to make others comfortable isn't loyalty, it's self-betrayal. You can't keep pretending you're the same person just to preserve old connections. Growth demands sacrifice. It asks you to leave behind the version of you that everyone understood for the version of you that no one recognizes yet. That's why it feels lonely. You're walking ahead of your time, and the crowd doesn't follow where evolution leads. You'll know you've outgrown the room when your peace feels more important than being understood. When silence feels better than noise, when solitude feels sacred instead of scary, that's when you stop chasing attention, start craving alignment. That's when validation stops mattering, because you finally trust your own voice. It's a quiet power, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything. You just move differently. Not faster, not louder, just deeper. You walk into rooms and realize you no longer need to be seen. Only to see clearly. Outgrowing a room doesn't mean you hate it. It means you've learned everything it had to teach. It was the soil you needed, but you're the seed. You were never meant to stay buried there. Growth is migration. You take the lessons, leave the weight, and move on. Some people will call it arrogance. Let them. They don't understand that staying small for their comfort would have been the real betrayal. You can't bloom in a pot designed for your roots a year ago. You're supposed to expand, even if it means breaking the pot in the process. So when the room starts to feel smaller, don't fight it. That's life whispering. It's time. You don't need permission to leave spaces that no longer honor who you've become. You don't owe anyone an explanation for your evolution. You don't have to justify your distance, your silence, your new boundaries. You just have to keep walking. Even when it's lonely, even when it's misunderstood. Because the truth is, every time you outgrow a room, you're one step closer to the world that was built for you all. Alon's isolation is a throne being formed in the dark. You don't see it when it begins. It starts with distance, slow, uncomfortable, confusing. People drift away. Calls stop coming. Rooms that used to feel alive start echoing with silence. You start to wonder if you did something wrong, if maybe you became too quiet, too strange, too different. But that's not punishment. That's positioning. Every chosen one goes through a season of removal. You're not being rejected, you're being refined. The noise that once filled your life is being cleared out so you can hear the voice that actually matters. The voice inside the dark isn't your enemy. It's your workshop. It's where the noise of the world finally shuts off long enough for you to see what's really been waiting inside you. When you're surrounded by people, you can hide behind distractions. But when you're alone, there's nowhere left to run. You meet yourself in that silence, raw, unfiltered, uncomfortable. The truth starts talking. The truth about what you want, what you fear, what you've been avoiding, and that truth doesn't whisper kindly. It confronts, it cuts, it makes you look at the version of yourself you've been trying to ignore. That's why isolation hurts. It strips away your masks until all that's left is the real you. People think isolation means loneliness. It doesn't. Loneliness is emptiness. Isolation is exposure. It's where you see what you're truly made of, because when everything's gone, the attention, the support, the validation, who are you then? When no one's clapping, no one's watching, no one's telling you you're doing great, can you still keep building? That's the question life asks in the dark. Most people crumble there because they mistake quiet for abandonment. But the dark isn't empty. It's crowded with unseen work. Every whisper of doubt, every tear that hits the floor, every night you stare at the ceiling wondering why nothing's moving, that's construction. Happening in silence. You're being built for something you can't carry yet. That's why you're isolated, because the crowd would contaminate your clarity. Their opinions, their fears, their projections, they'd all dilute your vision. So life separates you. It removes the noise, the nonsense, the distractions, until all that's left is discipline. Until you stop chasing connection and start cultivating conviction. That's what the throne is. Not power, not fame, not control, but authority over yourself. The kind of strength that can't be shaken by absence. The kind that doesn't need applause to feel alive. Isolation doesn't crown you. It carves you in the dark. You learn how to sit with silence without begging it to end. You start to appreciate stillness, not fear it. You realize peace isn't found in company. It's built in solitude. You start to understand why you had to lose certain people, why you had to walk away from certain crowds. They weren't bad, but they weren't meant for where you're going. You can't build an empire in a room full of noise. You can't hear direction when you're surrounded by distraction. So the universe locks you away for a while, not to punish you, but to prepare you, to teach you the language of stillness, to make you fluent in focus. The longer you sit in the dark, the clearer things become. You start to notice patterns, not in others, but in yourself. How you used to rush everything. How you confused movement with progress. How you used to cling to people out of fear of being alone. You see now that solitude doesn't break you, it detoxes you. It clears out attachments, illusions, codependencies. It purifies your motives. You stop doing things for attention and start doing them for alignment. You stop begging for love and start becoming love. You stop needing approval because you realize no one else can see the full picture of what's being built inside you. Then something strange happens. The silence starts to feel sacred. You wake up one day and realize you don't miss the noise anymore. You don't need the chaos to feel alive. You don't crave the validation that used to fuel you. You start to feel peace in your own company. You start to enjoy your own thoughts. You stop searching for rescue and start realizing you were the savior all along. That's when you know the isolation is almost over. When the darkness no longer feels like punishment, but privilege. When you stop waiting for the door to open and start building something inside that makes opening it unnecessary. People will never understand what isolation does to you unless they've lived through it. They'll look at you and think you disappeared, that you've lost touch, that you're falling behind. But they don't see what's happening behind the curtain. They don't see the growth, the discipline, the revelations. They don't understand that when the lights finally turn back on, you won't just be back, you'll be unrecognizable. Because while they were performing, you were preparing. While they were chasing attention, you were mastering silence. You were building the kind of strength that doesn't shout, but shakes the ground when it walks. So when you find yourself in that dark season, don't rush it, sit with it, let it strip you, shape you, starve your ego, and feed your spirit. That isolation you curse now. It's the foundation being laid beneath your throne. It's the preparation you'll one day thank for every ounce of power, peace, and purpose you carry. Because some people are crowned in public, but the real ones, they're crowned in silence, in shadows and solitude, where no one's watching and no one's clapping. Only building their fear of you reveals your power. You can feel it before they ever say a word. That tension in the room when you walk in, that quick glance, that nervous laugh, it's all energy. They don't fear you because you're cruel. They fear you because you're free. You can't be manipulated anymore, and that terrifies them. See, most people survive on control. They need to know they can influence how you feel, what you do, what you believe. The moment you break that pattern, the moment you stop reacting the way they expect, you become unpredictable. And nothing scares a manipulative soul more than someone who no longer plays by their script. Their fear is not about your words, it's about your silence. You used to explain yourself, didn't you? Used to argue, defend, justify. But now you just smile and let them wonder. That's power, the kind that doesn't need to prove anything. You stopped begging people to see your worth. You stopped explaining your intentions. You stopped dancing for validation. You took your energy back. And suddenly they can't read you anymore. That's what they fear, the loss of control. They can't figure out what you're thinking, can't predict your next move. To them, that makes you dangerous because you've become something rare, untouchable by manipulation, immune to approval. You'll notice the shift when they start whispering your name differently. First, they'll say you've changed. Then they'll say you've become cold. But what they really mean is you stopped needing them. Their comfort came from your dependence. They liked you better when you were uncertain, insecure, doubting yourself, because as long as you were unsure, you were manageable. But confidence, true confidence, is rebellion to weak minds. When you start trusting your own voice, you stop obeying